Welcome back once again. We will now proceed with the next session for today. Our panel discussion is on the topic Enhancing Customer-Centricity. For that, I would like to invite our moderator, Praveen Vashishta, member BFSI Committee, Bombay Chamber, and former co-founder, Howden Insurance Brokers India, and chairman, Howden Asia. And with him, I would like to call all the panelists, Dr. Sandeep Dadia, CEO and country head, Asia board member, Lockton, India. Ms. S.K. Rustagi, CEO, Beacon Insurance Brokers Private Limited, and Gaurav Dubey, founder and CEO, Livlong 365.
Good afternoon once again, and I do hope that everybody is well fortified and awake after a good cup of coffee or tea. So I welcome all the panelists. They have been introduced at least by name, but all three of them come from the insurance broking distribution industry or kind of sector. Now, when we were structuring and designing today's format, I was insistent that, we must do something that focuses around the customer. And pardon me for saying this, but I've always thought that, phrases like customer-centricity or customer focus sound rather corny. Everybody wants to think that they are customer-centric or customer-focused. But how true is it? If you look at today's session itself, Mr. Sathe talked about the trust deficit. Gayatri talked about 3 pillars, which I found very practically useful and very, very to the point and true. She talked about innovation. She talked about inclusiveness. She talked about digitization. And while she hinted at affordability and accessibility, Girija picked up from her and talked about affordability and accessibility, etc. And in that context, we heard about the Trinity, Bima Vistar, Sugam, and the Bima Vahak, that can hopefully transform the industry. Now, if you really look at the evolution of I'm not going to repeat what I said in the morning's theme address, but I'm going to say something different. If you really look at the evolution of the industry since it opened up, we have seen 3 or 4 dominant themes. There have been many themes that have played out, but if I were to talk from a general insurance perspective, of course we should discuss life as well. You'll find that the first 6 or 7 years from 2000 till 2008 were dominated by the theme of market share. Why was it? Because we had a tariff, and nobody could, barring a few people who always did something wrong, most people had to adhere to the tariff, so everybody made money by and large. And then, the next phase, when the tariffs were removed from 1st April 2008 onwards, that next block of 6 or 7 years, I think the dominant theme was re-engineering, because, and I've been part of the industry, I have been an insurer, reinsurer, insurance broker, and hopefully we'll get back to being an insurer. So the point I'm making is, re-engineering, because we had to discover once again how to underwrite, how to price, analytics-based pricing, etc. I'm not saying that the customer was not the focus, but the customer somehow, the customer was always at the center of it. In a matter of speaking, we were trying to do everything for the customer. But, how customer-centric were we really there? Was customer-centricity ever a dominant theme? So I think this is what I want to discover from you guys. So to start with, may I suggest that we follow a format which is also in the interest of letting our audience know what to expect in the next 35 to 40 minutes, which we have. A very brief introduction of the topic, or let's say an opening statement by each one of you, maybe 2, 3, 4 minutes, as you will. and then a discussion amongst us based on some questions and answers, and maybe we should then throw it open to the audience for at least a good 8 to 10 minutes. So maybe Sandeep, I can start with you.
So thank you, Praveen, and thank you to Bombay Chambers for giving me the opportunity to speak here. I think customer centricity is one of the age-old concept, and there is nothing new here. The way we service the customer is changing, but the attitude of servicing a customer or serving a customer is not. So I would like to believe, and I'm quite confident in what I'm saying. Brokers were introduced in, I think, 25 years back. And the brokers who have done well, irrespective of wherever they are, not just in India, anywhere in the world, they've believed in only one thing, and that is customer centricity. Now, when we are talking about customer centricity, what is it that we are, or the broker is supposed to do in terms of what is a customer centricity? Having the right attitude and the mindset. It's a highly abused word, I would say, or overused word, I would say, in every board meeting, in every forum we go into, that we all need to be customer-centric. But what it means to be customer-centric, first of all, it has to be the DNA of the organization. It is not just the CEO or the head or anybody at the junior level who's being customer-centric. Just one person being greatly customer-focused and centric and the entire organization not. That is not going to solve the purpose. Second thing is, what drives the customer centricity is what the solution we provide. Many of the times, I've seen in many industries, and especially in insurance industry, we are trying to give a solution to a problem which never existed. So I'm not talking about any brokers or intermediary in particular. I'm just giving a solution. There are so many products which have been launched, which is, in a closed AC room, we all feel it's a great product. When it goes to the market, there has been a big failure. Why is there been a failure? I mean, are we really trying to solve a problem which existed? Or it's just because I am so, glued to this concept, I possess this concept, and that's why I'm launching. So we in our organization define customer centricity is very simple. When we are doing sales, understand what a customer wants. And I always tell my sales team, I am myself a salesman, I can say that, proudly say that. When I am telling my sales team, do not feel what the premium he's placing is what he's trusting you for. Do not feel the 10% or 5% brokerage you get from that premium is what he's trusting you for. He is trusting you. The customer is trusting you for the entire sum insured, the entire asset which he is placing through you. The brokerage may be just a lakh or two, but the sum insured may be as high as 100, 200 crores. You have to see here that you are actually being trusted for that 100 crore asset value. And that is the most important thing. Second thing I always tell my people, just keep it in mind, would you yourself as a customer ever buy this product? And if you are convinced, then only sell this product. Otherwise, do not sell this product. And third and most important thing also, I always tell them, think of it as if you are giving the right solution to a customer, which means if you are being customer-centric, believe me, you will be able to charge even higher remuneration. There is nothing wrong in charging remuneration. There is nothing wrong in charging higher brokerage. But you will get only that that higher brokerage paid if you are able to provide a solution to the problem. So, and I always believe, find a problem with the customer, find a solution, digitize it, build a technology and digitize it, and the world calls it at customer centricity. So, most important thing is remain focused on the consumer, the customer. Never ever go into that field of arrogance. And believe me, we have seen so many industries falling apart, or so many companies falling apart, going down to the drains when they are not customer-centric. The moment the arrogance steps in, we lose the customer.
Thank you, Sandeep. So, being a little biblical here, know thy customer.
Absolutely.
DNA, solutions, focus. So, Gaurav, what would be your opening statement on customer centricity? How do you view this?
Thank you, Praveen, and thank you, Bombay Chambers, for giving the opportunity. So for us, so we started in May 2021, right? So it's like relatively recent, and so what we felt when we started was, and we are also we're only focused on health as a category, right? Right from insurance distribution to wellness as a whole one-stop solution, right? what we realized was that you need to be a subject matter expert, right? If you really want to be customer centric, because first you need to understand customer, right? And you need to understand really well, right? That's what actually the starting point for us, when, let's say, in our endeavor to be more and more customer centric, right? Also, what we realized, customer centricity, while sales is a very critical process, where customer centricity starts. But actually, it goes through the whole life cycle of engaging with the customer, right? Not only at a distribution part of it, but beyond that, in terms of servicing him, knowing him well, and especially for category like us, which is health, very health specific, right? Also in the claims part of it, right? And then post-claim, what kind of experience customer goes through, right? Now, health as a category, if you see it, it varies a lot. It's very person specific. So the kind of detailing your people needs to know, right, about each of the ailment, each of the protocols, that are very, a very different kind of expertise, which if you're able to demonstrate to your consumers, they really put a lot of value and trust to you, right? And that's what actually helping us, bring in, getting a lot of repeat customers. Our CSATs are extremely high because of that, right? And that's working, right? Because we have been true to the customer. We have people actually who extremely, I'll say very deep clinical expertise they have, which helps in catering to the post-claim experience also. Right? So that's all.
Thank you, Gaurav. So you touched on the topic of expertise. Now, Rustagi Saab, you have been in the industry for over 3 decades. You've seen kind of the industry changing, shaping up, getting more digitized. So what's your take on customer centricity?
See, basically, customer centricity is a basic for any organization. So whether it is insurance industry, automobile industry, pharma industry, hospitality industry, any industry. Because organizations are formed not for profit, but for enhancing the customer, including adding customers. That is what Peter Drucker says. So once you are adding a customer, profit and all those things become incidental. But if you are talking of tangible industry and intangible industry, like if you are going for purchasing of a car, you can test it, you can see all the reviews, you can physically drive it, and then you purchase it. Whereas insurance, the testing is hardly done. Testing is not done at all. So it becomes very, very critical of having customer centricity in insurance. And that's why there is a trust deficit, because today's latent defect while selling the policy will appear maybe after 5 years when the claim happens. So no testing is there. That's why it is insurance industry, our responsibility to ensure that whatever product we are pitching for the customer, it has to be analyzed properly. The need has to be identified in a real manner, in a continuous manner. Because risks go on evolving. It is not static things. Whether it is individual life, whether it is family, whether it is in corporate. So the continuous process of risk engagement, selection of the product, stitching it, and delivering it makes our 70% work done. If a right product for the right need has been given, then at the time of claim, if happens, the things are much more easy. As far as the penetration is concerned, that also I link it with the centricity only. As Sathi sir has told, trust deficit. Trust deficit has happened since we as the insurance industry have not perceived the need of an organization or an individual, because individual needs are different, family needs are different, organization needs are different. So we have to evolve ourselves to ensure that we understand their needs, fulfill those needs with the right pricing, so that insurance company can also pay the claim as and when it happens. So that is, to me, is customer centricity. That is the real meaning. Otherwise, writing on the walls, writing in vision mission does not make any difference.
Thank you very much. Thanks. So, I was trying and discover or kind of compile or collate a recipe, as it were, or the ingredients of this whole formula of customer centricity. And I think there are quite a few things on the table thus far. Rustagi ji talked about analyzing customer needs. Sandeep, you talked about solutions. You talked about focus. And importantly, Gaurav, you talked about expertise, which is very important because, when I started Howden 22 years ago, we were the first players in liability insurance, and we were trying to compete with the likes of Marsh and Aon, etc., and we were a very small player. So we would just go and tell our customer, if you had a heart problem, would you go to a cardiologist or a GP? And we are the cardiologists in liability insurance. So it was all about expertise, really. And finally, there is this whole thing about the fact that we are selling intangibles. So how do we tangibilize it? And then there is this whole thing about your approach, which is your DNA, really. So I think we have a fairly good idea of the ingredients, So, but moving ahead, we as an insurance industry have sometimes been accused of mis-selling, okay, especially when it comes to individual personal insurances. And also we have been often accused of pushing products at customers. Okay, so Sandeep, if I were to kind of turn to you, how do you really view this? Are we just pushing products? Or, so where is the innovation? Where is, this whole thing about actually following these ingredients, which means designing products and giving our customers what they need?
So what you're talking about is design product for a retail line of business. I would also like to add something about the commercial lines of business. So, we talk about structured solutions, and let me talk commercial lines first. Our customers are insurance companies. Our customers are direct clients, the corporate clients who we speak to. So when we understand the risk, what is the kind of structured solution we are able to offer to him? What is the actual kind of solution? Now, if you see, the product innovation had almost halted. When we talk about, say, example, property, we were dealing with standard products for, I think, almost 2 decades or more, 3 decades. We had standard fire and special and IR and PR. And so mega risk. So now there is further innovation of property solutions happening. So likewise, I think Girja ma'am just spoke about parametric solutions. There are surety bonds, there are M&A risk. And when we talk about simple industries where the volumes are significant, like a health insurance, of course there has been some now significant innovation which is taking place. On group health insurance, there is a technology to get a claim settled. There is a technology for seamless buying process. There is a technology for adding much of products in terms of adding wellness, adding as well-being. So how many companies are talking about that? Third thing is, we also talk about, every company is talking about customer centricity, rightly so. But I've seen very few companies having a chief customer officer or any kind of these officers who are managing the customers. In our own company, we take feedback from our shareholders. We give feedback and take feedback from our colleagues and employees who work with us. I'm using the word employees, I don't like that word, but anyways, for the sake of simplicity and understanding of all. So we give feedback to our colleagues, we take feedback from our colleagues. How many times we have gone to the market to take feedback from our customers? So that's where, in our sales process and in our service process, we've reduced and we've made the organization structure in a way that a CEO is next to the customer with max 4 layers. which otherwise in a larger organization it's 15th layer, 16th layer. Compression of those organization structures has actually created our closeness and our understanding with the customer in a better way. Components required, of course, the attitude, the skill set, the mindset, product knowledge, professionalism, IT solutions, and of course, right finances. So capital allocation across all is important for us.
Thank you. So Gaurav, turning on to you now.
Yeah.
You have expertise in health and wellness.
Yes.
So from a health and wellness perspective, and that's a big elephant in the room, as you understand. So what is your point of view on how we can make this whole health and wellness space better understood or better serviced from a client-centric point of view? Girija made a couple of good points during the last panel discussion about, and Shania also said, that it's not the consumer that can do much here. It's we as an industry, which means insurers and more importantly the suppliers, which is the healthcare system, the hospitals and so on and so forth, who need to do more on this. But how do we really become more customer-centric in the health and wellness space?
So one of the things which we realized, so one of the business offering which we also have for, let's say, other brokers and insurance companies and direct to customers is subscription plans on OPD, right? So there what we realized was the whole concept of preventive versus prescriptive medication, right? That so right now the whole industry and the Indian psychology is a lot towards prescriptive approach, right? We have to actually move very strategically as a national mission towards preventive approach. Otherwise, the whole burden of care on limited infra available in the country will always jack up the price, because the supply side, there will always be a supply side issue in India, right? Because of the limited infra, limited hospitals, and all those stuff. And then they will be in a position to bargain, right? On a wrong side of it from an insurance perspective, right? Now, in order to achieve that, so right now we have seen some of the work happening by insurers and some of the corporates on the preventive side of it, but it's very voluntary and it's too embedded in nature. As a consequence, what happens no one is encouraged to drive that behavior, right? If no one is encouraged to drive that behavior because of the way the whole pricing has happened or the whole product designing is happening, right? Ultimately the whole cost of care will fall at the prescriptive end of it, right? And which will never reduce the claims cost, right? That's what actually we feel, eventually the outcome all of us are looking at is lower claims cost from a health perspective. Even the insurers are looking at it and the brokers are looking at it, right? That's the only way we can actually increase the remuneration, right? Because there should be something left on table for everyone, right? If we don't drive preventive care, it will be very difficult in a medium to long term to achieve, a lower cost of claim, right?
Can you illustrate through one or two examples any interventions that you might have done in support of increasing customer centricity or enhancing value for your customer in your space?
Yes, quite a bit. So, for example, let's say, so we do retail health insurance distribution also, right? We have a corporate agency and another umbrella, we have broking. So there, let's say, whenever there is a customer being acquired, we do a whole proposal form run through for the consumer, especially mentioning him about the diseases, what he has mentioned, right? And let's say if there are the PD cases, what we also do is, by default, a complimentary care management program is given to the consumer through our own doctors, through our own network, and there are some of the, let's say, annual health checkup regular, which is provided to the patient or the customer by design, right? As a consequence, what we've seen is, on a healthcare side of it, our CSATs are typically always above 80, consistently, and this is like 3-year period I'm talking about, right? So it's helping us in great repeat of consumers. They're buying our products more and more again and again, right? Also, we are seeing a lot of them discovering that they are having some medical issue which they have not known otherwise, right? So it's a very, I'll say, not so happy discovery, but at least they are able to discover it, in the initial stage and able to take some care of it also, right?
Thank you. So, since morning we have heard a lot about protection gap. And, clearly there are a lot of customer expectations when it comes to helping them manage the increasingly complex risks. Okay, so I'd now like to turn to Rustagi ji, and then Sandeep, I'll come to you on the same topic in terms of your take on ensuring balance sheets and how, have brokers really measured up to becoming good risk management consultants? There was a report which used to be published for a number of years. I haven't seen this for the last 3 or 4 years. It's called the McTavish-Hepburn report. So the McTavish-Hepburn report, used to point out, it used to survey around 500 top companies globally, and risk managers, CEOs were interviewed. And, it was a very interesting compilation of, what they thought of us as an insurance industry. And my take in those days, and I worked in Switzerland for quite a bit, and the company that I used to work for, which was Zurich, which is now back in India after 25 years. So they used to emphasize a lot on ensuring balance sheets, whether it was individual balance sheets or commercial corporate balance sheets. So coming back to the McTavish-Hepburn report, and I'm really sorry for this long preface to the question, but the kind of most conclusive thing in the McTavish-Hepburn report used to be that if we in the insurance industry lag behind in advising our customers on how to manage their risks, then somebody else will move in fast to fill up the space. Whether it's consultants, whether it is, CFOs or risk, other kind of stakeholders. So Rustagi ji, how have we measured up to playing the role of risk consultants?
Basically, in B2B situations, any broker or intermediary is supposed to be a risk advisor and risk consultant. I normally, for a business entity, I categorize risk in 4 metrics. One is assets, that is current asset and fixed asset, within the premises and outside the premises. Second is pure financial risks. Third is liability risk. And fourth is human-related risks. So then we see it severity and frequency, because like health insurance for an organization is frequent, but not at all severe. So that does not have an impact on profit and loss account of a company. Whereas a big liability claim, if it happens, or there is a fire, or there is any natural calamities, or maybe you are exporting to one particular country, and the country become insolvent, financial emergency is there, then your lot of money is held up in that particular country. So all those risks affects directly or indirectly your balance sheet or profit or loss account. So basically, as a broker, it is our duty to see the risks on one side, see the severity and frequency on the other side. Whichever are frequency risk and the subject matter insured, whether it is tangible or whether it is a profit or loss account or balance sheet, we have to map their insurance structure. Whatever is left out, something may be insurable, something may not be insurable. Whatever is insurable has to be given on cost-benefit analysis on that things. So like, for suppose I am talking of cyber, nobody has imagined what Microsoft, that wrong patch of CrowdStrike or whatever it was, will affect the entire world on a grinding halt. Nobody has perceived that type of things. We talk about lot of cyber incidents on day-to-day basis, but we do not have data how much of those cyber incident were insured, and how much tangible claim has been paid. Because to my knowledge, though I do not have the data, but very few claims, cyber claims, are being paid in India and world over. So basically, protection of balance sheet is the prime duty of an insurance intermediary. And that is a dynamic process, very complicated process, and we have to work as a risk manager of our client to ensure that he knows what is covered, what is not covered, to what extent it is covered, what are the compliances, what are the duty he has to do at the time of claim, so tangibly expectations are met.
Thank you. Sandeep, before I request you to answer this and further expand and share your views, I'll just pick up a couple of points, very respectfully from what Rustagi ji said. While he did refer to financial risks, liability, and you referred to cyber, but the sense that I got, you did talk about balance sheets, etc., but the sense that I got is that the insurance industry as a whole, not just brokers, are more fully engaged with looking at physical risks, assets, and this has been one of the gripes, I don't want to use the word grievances, but definitely one of the concerns of CEOs, CFOs of large corporations, that we are too focused on assets. How do we really move beyond that and move towards a more 360-degree view? I'm not saying we compete with the likes of McKinsey or BCG and suddenly become, the top guys in, strategic risks or compete with somebody else to become the top guys in analyzing financial risks. But clearly, if we have to manage balance sheet risks, we have to do more than just looking at assets. And there are a lot of global examples where the insurance industry is trying to innovate in this direction. And so I don't want to steal your thunder, but Sandeep, please, if you could throw light on this.
Absolutely. So it's a very good point. In fact, industry needs an overhauling here. And I would say, we've seen, let me quote some examples. We've seen COVID, which has happened. How many people were insured for non-damage business interruption? I've heard of one of our clients. In fact, we've been actually promoting this 3 years prior to that. Only one client had bought it. Somewhere we started actually doubting our own experience and expertise, that are we not able to convince our clients? So clients were convinced, but they still didn't buy. So, when it comes to buying an insurance policy, and sorry to say this, many of the clients become actuaries. They start projecting and predicting their own claims. They said, what is going to be my loss? I have not had a loss since the last 30 years. All the more reason you're going to have a loss. That's a law of probability. If the incidence ratio of a property loss is going to be 3%, all the more reason every 30 years you're going to have a claim, my friend. But many clients don't understand. So, of course, assets is physical assets. He spoke about liability, the management. I've seen many of the management talking about every liability, but when it comes to buying an insurance policy or a risk cover, there are very few DNO policies sold. There are very few ENO policies sold. Professional negligence I'm talking about. And which risk can be huge. And just for the audience, if I have to explain in very simple language, if this table here in front of me gets damaged, I know the cost of this table is 10,000 and the claim is going to be 10,000. However, if this table causes some kind of major bodily injury to any one of them, the risk on the hotel premises is in few hundreds of crores. The loss may be only this table or probably the furniture of this. But the loss of lives, take an example of the airline crash. The airline cost is XYZ, few hundreds of crores. But the liability arising on the airline operator or the owner of the airline because of so many lives lost, so many property damaged, is humongous, much higher than the airline cost. This is what needs to be understood. And we always tell the customers, understand the concept of TCOR, the total cost of risk. Unfortunately, in India, we see TCOP. There is no such thing like, we've termed as TCOP, total cost of premium. So when a CFO is buying, we get little jittery. Is he going to be looking at only cost or TCOR, the total cost of risk? And mind you, when we talk of TCOR, the premium cost compared to the overall TCOR is not more than 20% in most of the cases, which means 80% weightage goes to risk management, the claim settlement, what covers you have taken, and many other concepts. So I think the industry needs to understand it's a wake-up call for all of us, that if we don't, and mind you, on these DNO, the ENOs, the claims are not small. Even, we've seen ENO claims against several professional agencies. There has been a recent cyber incident where there is $175 million worth of claim, and that is getting paid very soon. There are 5 or 6 insurers, and I think a couple of 7 or 8 reinsurers who are participating in that program. So those who are thinking there will not be a claim, there is a definite claim. And just one point I'll just add here. For an individual, also talk about individual balance sheet of a retail customer or an individual. 98% of the people's balance sheet, individual balance sheet, the biggest asset we own is a house. And still the home insurance is less than 2% penetrated. So that's a level of ignorance the market is having. So I'm just talking about individual balance sheet also, just to open if it helps.
No, thank you. Sandeep, I think, you took me some 25 years ago when you talked about total cost of risk, because in my ex-company, Zurich, we used to have this concept of total risk profiling. And we really like to engage our customer in what is your total cost of risks, not your total cost of premium. And Rustagi ji also brought this point about insured versus uninsured risks, insurable versus uninsurable risks. Now, what I'll do is, I have 3 quick questions to my panelists here, after which I'll throw it open to all of you, and please be prepared with some questions, lest we should think that it was a boring session. So please encourage us by asking questions, but very quick ones. So, Gaurav, what can we do to really achieve this goal of insurance for all, make insurance affordable, accessible, reach the furthest corners of the country? So, very quick answers.
I think the simplicity of the product, I'm talking from the retail perspective, simplicity of the product, also simplifying distribution in Tier 2 and Tier 3 markets, right? Making it a little more flexible, because otherwise economies of scale will not work, right? If you have, let's say the whole, let's say from broker perspective, BQP licensing and all those stuff, right? So it becomes difficult. Also, IRDAI took some initiative in terms of having a POS regulation. However, the kind of sum assureds, let's say for health product as a category, right? Still it's 5 lakh rupees, right? As a limit, right? If you see Government of India, they're also offering 5 lakh sum assured, right? So why people will go beyond 5 lakh, right? So you need to have, those kind of flexibility, coming into play. So if you want to encourage insurance penetration into Tier 2 and Tier 3 markets, right? And that I think is a very, very strong requirement. It will take us a long, in terms of achieving insurance for all.
Thank you. So, Rustagi ji, I'll turn to you for your final question, and then one last one to Sandeep. So, Sandeep, to you my question will be on the regulatory side, and I'll come back to it in a bit. But Rustagi ji, Sandeep did talk about taking customer feedback, etc. And then, how often is it that we as an industry take customer feedback and actually use that feedback to improve our value proposition, services, products, efficiency, so on and so forth?
Customer feedback, as we all know, is a critical point for customer centricity, to know about our product, our services, our claim disposal, everything. But still, to my knowledge, customer feedback in insurance industry has not been a regular phenomena. See, as a car owner or as a two-wheeler owner, every time from the dealer, from the company, the feedback things comes to us. Whereas in insurance, I've hardly seen it, whether it is from broker or whether it is from insurance company. So we are lacking in this feedback mechanism, which is the mirror to all of us. for customer centricity. However, recently in IBI, McKinsey report was there last week or 10 days back. So McKinsey report has given lot of insights about customers' feedback. Like one feedback I'm just sharing with you. They have segmented ultra HNI, HNIs, common individual and so on and so forth based on income pattern. Ultra HNIs are the most unsatisfied first customers as far as the dealing at the time of claims are concerned. They are not price sensitive and they do change, 50% do change their intermediary if a claim comes. That is for ultra HNI. For a common man, middle income group person, there is no change of customer, but he is price sensitive. So it has to be, product has to be segmented depending on needs differs. For ultra HNI, I'm talking of simple example, versus a common man. Coming to householder policy, like Mr. Sandeep has talked about, householder policy claims, if you have taken a claim in householder policy of 10,000, 15,000, the process is very long. The claim ratio of householder policy is less than 10%. So any product which is having ICR, incurred claim ratio of less than 10%, that is not going to be in the market. Because coverages are there, but the process of claims is not streamlined, except PCGs and all those things which is for ultra HNI.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. And indeed, the same McKinsey report also talks extensively about taking a feedback from some of our distributors, like agents, brokers, etc., etc. So, Sandeep, my final question before I take questions from the audience is, a quick question to you is on the regulatory framework. So, there have been quite a few regulatory interventions when it comes to protecting policyholders' interests. We have a whole regulation and, settlement of health insurance claims, Gaurav, we have had a lot of regulatory say. So is there anything that you would expect the regulators to do, Sandeep? And I ask you because you've also held positions in the Insurance Broking Association and, you've interacted extensively with regulators. So, which is why this final question is for you.
No, I think one very positive thing for India is that the gap between the general population or the intermediaries or the insurers and the regulators reduced to almost negligible. What used to be an approach towards the regulator that, we had to take appointments and 3 months and 6 months, we were not being heard. Today we call up, if there is a problem in the industry, we just approach the regulator, they give a patient hearing immediately. And of course they will try and find out a solution. So I think most important thing is, and from insurance companies will grow and continue to grow. Intermediaries are also growing. So I'll just give you certain statistics there where in certain countries the intermediary penetration is as high as 75-80%. And insurance as a product cannot, or insurance as an industry, let me assure you, cannot grow without a broker. The difference between a broker or intermediary, I'm sorry to use this word, without an intermediary. In any other intermediation like a stock broking or any other, like a property broking, the role of an intermediary ceases, it stops after the transaction is done. In insurance broking, the role of an intermediary begins once the transaction is over, because sales is only 30% of an entire year, servicing claims and all. So I do believe that brokers and other intermediaries will continue to grow. Regulators, I do believe that, I think the industry would only expect just one thing: stability, which a regulator has been able to provide. Stability and the policy which is going to remain for the next 5 years, 10 years. And that's where the capital commitment will come, capital infusion will come. For brokers, we've been trying that, we have a renewal of license which is every 3 years. If it can be made perpetual like an insurance company, there is a huge investment which is waiting for it to happen in the sector.
Indeed, that's there in the new proposed regulations, and I hope it does come across. So,
but overall, I will give full marks to the regulator for being so open, and they've been discussing at every forum to help the industry grow further.
I couldn't agree more. So I've been given a cue that we have time for 2 or 3 questions. So I throw it open to the audience. I don't know if you have mics.
Thank you for bringing the question discussion here. It's very interesting. I actually, it's the first time I'm actually participating in a event where I'm hearing more about the insurance in India. I've been in insurance for many, many years, but not in India. Sandeep, a question for you. You spoke about property insurance. I've been in the property insurance side for US for many, many years now, and I know how it works and how much money companies make there versus even the people who basically get the claims, right? You mentioned that the penetration is very poor, very low. I tell you, I tried doing insurance of my home, which is obviously my big asset. It's just impossible. It's so complicated. You try to call brokers, you try to call intermediaries, they are not able to help in understanding. Now, while we all want our property to be insured, I just want to understand from you, as a community here, insurance community here, what have we done to, and I think it's missing, how we can make our next generation understand that property insurance is very important. I'm just struggling to figure out this part. Any thoughts around this? How do we increase that understanding around this?
See, number one is awareness, most important thing. Also when, overall the number of claims though, because the claim ratio is low in property insurance, and so that's where the premiums are reflecting, because the premiums also pretty low. So, I mean, I would call it somewhere, and I've always been promoting this idea of a happy media. I mean, there has to be some newspaper, some media, which just promotes what is happiness. I mean, there has been some fire, there has been some earthquake, everybody promotes that. But, I mean, the total number of grievances, I mean, people say they are in lakhs, 3 lakh, 5 lakh. Do you know the total number of claims settled? Do you know the number of policies issued? 33 crore policies have been issued. I mean, I may be slightly wrong here and there. How many grievances are there for policies not being issued? Say 500,000, and it's being made as a huge hype. So let there be those positive news coming in the media as well, that there have been 33 crore policies. People say industry doesn't pay claims. When the combined ratio is above 100, incurred ratio is 80%, 90%, how is it that they're not paying the claim? They are paying the claim, but only highlight is the claims not being paid. But we don't talk about claims being paid. Third thing about property insurance and the claims what you spoke about, you buy the policy. But what happens there is no buyer beware. So you are buying a policy without knowing what is covered in the policy. Now they are all on condition of average, and I'll go slightly technical here. If we speak about on a first class basis, no, I mean, there will not be any condition of average. The entire paperwork, everything goes, I mean, it's removed. Get that done. Remove the condition of average. Now the product freedom is given to the insurance companies. That has to be something sold to those people. So there is no claims. And when we are talking about, say, only natural catastrophic covers, there is a parametric available, not for an individual house, but probably for a building. If the building gets damaged and destroyed due to whatever the index is or parametric which is being covered, no questions asked, the claim is going to be paid. So we'll, as a consumer and as your advisor, select the right advisor. That's the only
we have another question there in the center.
I have a question again for Dr. Sandeep sir. As an industry, we are always expecting a lot of things from government and say regulator. Why not insurance companies come together? The way hospitals are organized and associated, and they build pressure. In a city like Ahmedabad, they dare to ban insurance companies. Why not insurance companies come together and ban hospitals? Second question is, why not we ask government? Because again, only industry cannot do anything unless there was IPC, now there is BNI. There is no insurance fraud as a crime in India. You go to police station.
I didn't get the second question.
The second question is, whenever there is some fraud in insurance, police station cannot take that crime under clause of, there is no IPC, BNY, nothing as an insurance fraud. They have to register that crime under something different. Why can't we at least start to pressurize government and demand that why not make an insurance crime as a separate crime? That is my question.
So, to answer to your first question, I hope there is nobody from Competition Commission here. I mean, see, we are an organized and a professional setup. If our doctors want to do that, let them do it, God bless them. See, if there is an established fraud, and by fraud I'm not saying claim which is not claimed and we are still charging. Overcharging is also fraud from an insurance company. That data is very much available with an insurance company and with the industry as well. Why don't you publish that data, and why can't that insurance company not deal with that service provider? Alternate solution, deal with every service provider and do only cashless. And you know, get the information before the claim is being paid. Here, reimbursement claims happens in health insurance. When the claim is paid, the patient has got discharged, there is no way you can prove the bona fides.
So, I am so sorry, I've just
one question.
Okay,
Yeah.
it has to be a quick one and a quick answer.
Quick one.
Very quick one, yeah.
So my name is Jai Govind Tripathi. I am Principal Officer and CEO of Sworigin Insurance Broking Company. And actually I'll split the question into two, one for Dr. Sandeep Dadia and another for Sanjeet Rustagi sir. So the question for Sandeep Dadia is, like in the property insurance, marine insurance project policy, there has been a clear guideline coming from Supreme Court of India to IRDA to amend the arbitration clause to also include the dispute arising out of admissibility of the claim, not only the quantum dispute. Now what IRDA said that, this is left to the discretion of the insurance company to contractually work, the wording with the insured. Now insured are not qualified and competent to get into the structuring of only arbitration wording, and the rest of the wording is normally sacrosanct. Now why insurance industry is not taking this step along with the intermediary to really work out the wording of the arbitration clause, which also promotes the arbitration for non-admissibility of the claim? That is a question to Dr. Sandeep Dadia. Another question to...
Tripathi ji, if you don't
sir,
mind, we'll have
just a
to just
moment.
restrict
sure,
it to
sir.
one question.
Sure, sir.
Because, we have a hard stop here.
Jai Govind, I have an answer and I'll give you outside, but just to make it a little lighter, if the policies become very simple, you and me will cease to exist.
Thank you. On that lighter note, and I'm sorry, Tripathi ji, we can continue the discussion afterwards because, as you see, we have a hard stop and I have the guillotine standing there. So I think I thank the panel and request you to give this brilliant panel a big round of applause. Thank you very much.
Indeed, sir, it was an insightful discussion. I would like to request our committee chair himself to please present mementos to our panelists as a token of appreciation. Dr. Sandeep Dadia. S.K. Rustagi. And Gaurav Dubey. Requesting our panelists and moderator for a group picture. I would like to request our Director General, Sandeep Khosla, to please present a memento to our committee chair, Mr. Praveen Vashishta. He is suggesting me from the behind Utkarsh, not for me, मैं घर का ही आदमी हूँ, but it is our privilege to have him.